Hi everyone, I'm Dale Croft. Welcome to First United Methodist Weekly Devotional. Last Sunday, Pastor David was teaching us how God uses the hard things in our lives for good a lot of times. And that is so very true. But he used the example of Joseph. And Joseph was the favored son of Jacob. And he had a number of brothers, and his brothers despised him for that, and they plotted a way to kill him, and then they decided they wouldn't kill him. But they ended up selling him off into Egypt, into slavery. And Joseph went to Egypt, and he ended up being in prison. And he was in prison for a number of years, not just a few days. He sat and he languished in prison for a number of years, and you can just hear him crying out to God, saying, God, why me? Why do I deserve this? I don't deserve this. Why would you put me here? And when am I going to get out? And what good can come of this? And you know what? A lot of times we ask the same question. I ask the same question and say, God, why is this happening, or why has this happened? And I know there were things that have happened in my life 40 some years ago. I asked that question, and I still don't have the answer. We may never have the answer. In this case, we do know what happened, or we do know the good that resulted from Joseph being in prison. And you know that Joseph that God was working on his heart that whole time he was in prison. He didn't just let him sit in there and not do anything. So the entire time that Joseph's in prison, God's working on his heart, and God is creating a humble spirit. And Joseph had a reputation for being able to interpret dreams, and Pharaoh got wind of this because he had a dream one night, and he wanted to have his dream interpreted. So he called Joseph before him, and Joseph said, well, I can interpret your dream, but it's not me. It's God himself that will interpret your dream. And the dream really consisted of forecasting a famine in the land for 7 years, a drought. And Joseph correctly interpreted the dream, and they were able to store up enough grain so that they could avoid starvation during the famine. And for that, Joseph was rewarded as became the second in command in Egypt. But had this harm not come, had Joseph's brothers not had Joseph sold into slavery and Joseph ending up in prison, had that not happened, this whole situation would not have ended up the way it did. Thousands of lives, instead of thousands of lives being saved, thousands of lives would have been lost. And A.W. Tozer had a quote, said one time that it is doubtful that God can fully use a man until God fully breaks a man. And I believe that to be so true. You know, and as I was thinking of this whole situation and other examples of where the same thing may have occurred in the Bible, there's one ultimate example, and that's the death of Christ on the cross. Christ came for us to save us from our sins, to save the world from their sins, and that, as terrible as that situation was, as terrible as his death was, God meant the whole thing for our good. Take care. Have a good week.